He's a mama's boy. He said it, I didn't. He likes packaged cakes. And he is also the current president of Sunshine Toastmasters Club. Please welcome Toastmaster Ashutosh with his speech, Recycled Teenager. Recycled Teenager, Toastmaster Ashutosh.
How many of you have a mentor? How many of you love your mentor? And how many of you fear your mentor? When I joined Toastmasters and I was at the point to choose a mentor, there was one criteria that I had very high in my mind, and that was excellence. I wanted to follow in the footsteps of someone who is excellent. And I'll tell you a story which tells you about the excellence of the mentor that I chose. My mentor is DTM Priyadarshi. And he was a very senior member when he was part of the club. And he's still one of the best Toastmasters I have ever seen. In each of the meetings, he would either take an evaluator role or a G role very often. But there was one meeting in which he had not taken any role. In fact, he didn't have his usual pen and paper with him. He was just sitting in the room. And he never wrote down things on the phone. Now the meeting went, the speakers came, they spoke, the evaluators came. The G came with his handful of notes about each of the role takers and recited the feedback to them from the notes. When we went back to home, after half an hour, we got a long test from Priyadarshi sir on the WhatsApp group. Praising everyone who had done well in the meeting, exactly what they did well, where they could have improved, and how they can improve. And I'm like, no, you didn't have a pen and paper. How are you doing this? And that I understood later was not because he was used to not doing it without pen and paper. It was because he had trained himself to focus and organize his thoughts in a way that you can remember very fast. But he was, after a long period of practice, was able to do that without pen and paper now. And that was the reason he used to teach all of us also. Any mentee of his would get, you have to practice your speech 7 times before you come on the stage. And now I write speeches because I got in the bad habit of not writing speeches. But I still practice the same speech by recording it 10 times, 20 times, and then sending people videos for review. And then using that video. Coming to the fear part. So I was discussing this fear of DTM Priyadarshi with the old Toastmasters he said. And her response was, oh, Priya sir, he's so sweetie. And I'm like, yes, these are the guys who have named him the recycled teenager and what not. And because he is like that, he is really sweet to people who are 40 years younger than him. I remember one meeting by Leona in which we had Halloween celebration. And it was a normal meeting plus a costume contest. And that was fabulous in itself. In that meeting, I was in TMOD. And it was my first time taking TMOD, so I was super anxious because I had my no intro and I wanted to remember everybody's intro and I didn't want to give anybody's intro with a sheet in my hand. So to avoid that, I was constantly rehearsing and revising everything that was going on. Everything was over, G's evaluation was going on and he said my name by mistake. I stood up from my seat, ran up to the desk and stood next to him. And he's like, despite the obvious fumbles and the invasion of stage, his only feedback for me for that meeting was, Ashutosh, why did you come in a costume? You could have put on a mask at least. You have to accept the spirit of things going around. Excellence is a daily job. You're already doing good at that. But that's not the only job. You have to strike the balance with enjoying the process also. And that was a good lesson for a person, like goal-oriented person like me, that the process also needs to be invested into. You have to involve yourself. And that's the same spirit that he used to bring into the meetings. And that is why he was a favorite to a lot of young Toastmasters. And when I heard my essay journey, he gave me the story that there was someone who was the essay of Sunshine. Then he became president. Of these two steps I have already done. Then he wrote a book. And then he got that book signed by Al Gore, the vice president of US at the time, in person. Just imagine if someone has given you this story. For 6 months, I didn't talk to him, I didn't talk to anybody, I did essay almost flawlessly. I used to come to a meeting 1 hour earlier and get everything done, then I would rehearse more, and I had a whole time of 6 months with essay because of him. So again, coming back to the main question. Do you have a mentor? Do you love your mentor?
Yes.
Do you fear your mentor? And regardless of both, do you understand that it is your job to question your mentor to his limits? Respect his limits, but take it to the limits. So that he has to say that you are doing a good job, just leave my head alone. And because you have to learn to become a giant, you don't need to actually become a giant. You just need to learn to ride the shoulders of giants that have come before you. And that is your mentor.